All right, let's get into it. Today, we are breaking down the book, The High Value Man. Now, this isn't about your typical dating tips or cheesy pickup lines. No, this is all about one central idea, that real, powerful attraction isn't something you chase. It's a natural result of mastering yourself. So, let's unpack exactly how that works.
Here's the game plan for today. First up, we're going to define what a high-value man even is, according to this book. Then, we'll dive into the foundation of it all, mastering your own inner world. From there, we'll get practical with some silent power techniques, explore the psychology behind attraction, pinpoint the common mistakes you'll want to avoid, and wrap it all up with the ultimate goal, becoming what the author calls an unforgettable experience.
Okay, so let's start at square one. When this book throws around the term high-value man, what are we actually talking about?
Here's the key takeaway right here. It's all about your internal state, not about what you do on the outside. This isn't a playbook of clever lines or manipulative tricks. It's a framework for an inner transformation, where attraction just happens. It becomes the natural side effect of a man who has truly gotten a handle on his own emotional world.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of the whole philosophy. The author draws a very clear, hard line in the sand. On one side, you have genuine attraction that comes from who you really are. On the other, you have what they call manipulative tactics. The whole system is built on this belief that your authentic self is the most powerful tool you've got, period.
So, let's build on that. If authenticity is the name of the game, the author argues that all the real work starts and ends with mastering your own inner world.
You know, according to this way of thinking, probably the most magnetic quality anyone can have is this sense of being complete. It's about not needing anything from anybody else, not their approval, not their validation, not even their attention. This kind of internal independence, this ability to be your own emotional anchor, is what the book claims just naturally commands respect and, you guessed it, inspires attraction.
So how do you actually build this inner fortress? Well, the book lays out these 4 foundational pillars. First, emotional control. This doesn't mean bottling things up. It means choosing your response instead of just reacting on impulse. Second, cultivating a kind of unshakable confidence that isn't tied to whether you win or lose. Third is emotional composure. Staying cool, calm, and collected, especially when things get heated. And last but not least, alignment. This is just making sure your words, your actions, and your core values are all singing the same tune. That's the textbook definition of authenticity.
Okay, so you've been doing the internal work. Great, but how does that actually show up in the real world? This next part is all about what the book calls techniques of silent power, and they're all about showing that inner strength without ever having to say a word.
Now, the book actually lists 9 of these, but we're going to zero in on 4 of the big ones. And you'll probably notice a theme here, right? They're all really subtle. It's almost more about what you don't do than what you do. It all boils down to composure, being deliberate, and good old-fashioned self-respect.
Let's talk about strategic silence first. And no, this is not about being awkwardly quiet. It's about being so comfortable that you're okay with pauses in a conversation. The book makes the point that someone who's constantly talking, filling every gap, is often looking for approval. But someone who uses silence on purpose, that creates a little mystery, a little curiosity, and it signals that they are totally and completely self-assured.
Next up, composed eye contact. And again, that word composed is everything. This is not a staring contest, okay? It's a calm, steady gaze that says, I'm present, I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I'm not intimidated. According to the source material, this is a direct window into your own inner calm.
And this might just be the most powerful technique of all, knowing when to walk away. It is the ultimate display of self-worth. It tells the world that your self-respect is non-negotiable. It's more important than any one person or any single outcome. The book really hammers this home as an absolutely essential trait.
Okay, let's pivot a little from behavior to the psychology behind it all. The book lays out something it calls the Machiavellian blueprint. And hey, don't get thrown by the name. It's not about being some ruthless villain. It's the book's term for a framework that helps you understand the deep, subconscious things that actually drive attraction.
So, let me just ask you this. Is attraction a logical choice? Do people really sit down with a list of pros and cons to decide if they're into someone? Well, according to this source, the answer is a hard no. It argues that attraction is almost entirely an emotional, subconscious gut feeling. So the goal isn't to logically convince someone you're a great catch, but to create a very specific emotional experience for them.
So here are a few of those core psychological principles. First, this idea of balancing security with excitement. So you're seen as that reliable rock, but you're never, ever boring.
Second, the principle of intermittence. This idea that being a little less available, alternating your presence with absence, can actually crank up attraction. Third, always showing your independence, so it's clear that being with you is a deliberate choice, not something born out of neediness. And finally, leaving what the book calls emotional imprints. Those tiny little things, like a specific look, a scent, or a shared inside joke that just stick in someone's head long after you've gone.
You know, sometimes the best way to understand an idea is to look at its opposite. In this philosophy is as much about knowing what not to do as it is about what to do. This next section really makes the core ideas crystal clear by putting them right next to their opposites.
I mean, the contrast here couldn't be clearer, right? The book puts authenticity up against putting on fake personas, independence against neediness, getting your validation from within versus constantly seeking it from others, and emotional stability versus being reactive to everything. You see the pattern? Every single one of those low-value traits is rooted in needing something from the outside world, while every high-value trait grows from that internal self-mastery we keep coming back to.
So, where is all this going? What's the point of mastering your inner world and using all these techniques? What's the end game? Well, our final section is going to tie this all together.
Now we're getting into a bit of a more advanced concept the book calls emotional dissonance. Really, in simple terms, it just means not being 100% predictable. It's this idea that a little bit of mystery, a touch of ambiguity, is what creates that deep intrigue that keeps someone interested and invested. It's the difference between being an open book they can read in 5 minutes and being a fascinating puzzle they can't wait to solve.
And that, right there, brings us to the end game. The ultimate goal laid out in The High-Value Man isn't about getting a date or collecting phone numbers. It's about becoming a powerful, lasting memory. It's about becoming an experience so unique, so compelling, that it's basically unforgettable.
So, after breaking this whole framework down, we are left with a pretty provocative question, aren't we? Are these techniques a path to genuine self-mastery and authentic connection? Or are they just a really sophisticated form of psychological manipulation? The book, of course, argues it's all about self-mastery, but it's a blurry line, and it's definitely something worth thinking about. So, what do you think?